Levitt to do whatever she needs to do. She was like 30 minutes late last week, so hopefully that doesn't happen again. What's the briefing about? It's usually about all the things that have happened lately. Welcome to another fucking live. I'm your host, Kellerman, and today we're going to watch the White House press briefing as soon as it starts. Right now, we're running a little late. It's about 10 minutes late so far. It is live, so we're just going to hang out until Caroline Levitt takes the podium, I suppose. Isopodium. Levitt be making up her face. Okay. Hello to Israel. Where are people joining from? It's always fun to see where you guys are around the world. I do remember the Fuck David chat from the election. I sold like 5 Fuck David shirts, which is hilarious because it's obviously not a catchphrase of the fucking news or something. It just took off that one night. Kellerman for president. Oh, someone's watching from New Mexico. Hello. Austin, Texas. Alaska, London, Kansas, all over the world. I love it. Okay, we got people in Virginia on YouTube. Make sure that you go to YouTube, guys. You're going to be able to see what's on the green screen instead of just seeing a green screen if you go to youtube.com/@KellermanComedy. If you're watching on Instagram, especially go there, because I don't make any money on Instagram, but I do make a little bit of money on YouTube. So if you're watching it there, you know, it helps everybody out. Bahrain. Hello to Ireland. Virgin Islands. Mississippi. God, I love this. Central Florida. Okay, TikTok, though. You stay on TikTok, because I need you guys to, like, give me gifts. I don't know how the gifts work, really. But it tells me to try to get them, so I'm trying to get them. Portsmouth, UK, Portland, Oregon, Pittsburgh, Trinidad. Okay, YouTube, how we doing? Where are we from? Houston says hi, y'all. Hello, Caitlin Deanne from Houston. Do you stream on Substack? I do, but not simultaneously. I do stream on Substack, but not simultaneously. Someone's here from Canada. Nate. California, Bro-tato Chip. Hey, North Carolina. That's where I grew up. Hawaii, New York. Love it. Maryland, Colorado, Long Island, New York in the house. What's up, Lord Bum? Sorry, this probably isn't very exciting for you. We're really just killing time until Arizona, Mississippi. Caroline Levitt should be on soon. This was supposed to start at 10. Last week she was like 30 minutes late. Hey, thanks, Renzo. Appreciate the support. Thank you for coming over to YouTube. Like and subscribe. Get that algorithm. I don't know how the algorithms work, honestly. Seems like they change every week. But, you know what to do. New subscriber. Thanks, Marie. Absolutely love your vids. I appreciate that, Kelsa. Holler, Alabama. Wyoming, Argentina. Bloody Roy gives a shit. Is this fun for you? Just me shouting you all out? Hello to Toronto. Kozuk. We're going to get this rolling as soon as Caroline Levitt gets in here. So, thank you, Lord Bum. Love that. Thanks for the subscription. Can you talk about the whole Trump email thing that got released today and yesterday with Epstein? Here's what I'll say about that. Trump has already gotten ahead of all of that. I just don't know if calling him the dog that hasn't barked yet or something like that is incriminating enough to make any difference at all. He's already said it's a Democrat hoax, blah, blah, blah. So anything that the Democrats release is already kind of tainted with a bit of, like, uncertainty, right? Even if it's true, it's gonna be hard to believe unless either it gets released by Republicans or you know, if there's something actually incriminating, like a photograph, although he'd probably just say it was AI. I don't know. I read the email. I didn't see anything terribly incriminating. Not at least not any more incriminating than anything else we've seen in here. So they are 100% going to bury or twist it. We'll see. Maybe Caroline Leavitt will talk about it today. Maybe one of the I doubt it, but maybe one of the press will ask her about it. It's possible. I think they've been vetting the questions before they get asked. But Southern Italy, welcome. Trump is a hoax, says the baker's baker. What would have to come out for any actual repercussions to happen? It's really hard to say. It's really hard to say what would have to happen. Alberta, Canada, eh? Trump is a joke. Your background, yeah, it's green on Instagram and TikTok. You want to go to youtube.com/Kellerman Comedy, comedy with a K, if you want to see what's going on behind me. Although at the moment, there's not much going on behind me because we're still waiting for Caroline Leavitt, who is late again. It's not enough to be transparent, you guys. You should be on time also. Don't people value punctuality anymore? I'm kidding, of course. I'm chronically late to my lives. Northern Italy. Hello to Slovakia. Someone called him President Stroke is doing his best. You know, I've seen a lot of conspiracy theories about Trump having had a stroke or possibly multiple strokes since taking office. Tell me in the comments if you think that that is true. I saw a video yesterday. All it was a video of the Trump motorcade, and it had an ambulance in it. And it was painted all black, which I thought was a little strange, but, you know, it matched, I guess, the rest of the motorcade. The truth is, I don't even know if it was Trump's motorcade. It was just a video of an all-black motorcade with an ambulance in it. And it was like, Trump is, this direction takes you to a hospital. This direction they're traveling in. It's like, okay. Show me the hospital bill. Let me talk to the doctor that treated me. That's why I call it a conspiracy theory. You know, conspiracy theories, whether they are right or wrong, are still a theory until proven right or wrong. You like the way I present my news? Thanks. I felt like the way I present the news was kind of missing. You know, not a lot of unbiased common men talking about, yeah, I mean, I'm sure I wish I was like a woman of color or something so that I'd be even more broadly appealing, but, you know, not a lot of places to just get neutral information without fluff or bias or opinion or speculation. So I jumped right in there. It was missing and I started doing it. What's going on in Nigeria? Why are you laughing about it? It's not good. It's not good over there. Is YouTube or Instagram inverted? I'm not sure. Oh, one of them is. I don't know. Let's see. Instagram is inverted. That's why the words are backwards. That's not the case on YouTube. So if you want to see what I really look like and what these words really say, I know it's difficult to read backwards, then, you know, go over to YouTube. Nate's saying he's been shown to be extremely drowsy during public appearances or discontinued from what is happening. Discontinued is not the right word there. Also, signs of stroke recovery. Yeah, but those signs of stroke recovery could be signs of so many other things. And like him being drowsy, you know, this isn't, I'm not here to defend Trump, but he has been doing so much. The guy literally, I don't know, if you saw his schedule last week when he was traveling across Asia, it was basically non-stop. He would leave one place, go to another, have a meeting, fly to another place almost immediately. You know, the guy is like working around the clock. So, drowsy at 2 in the afternoon when someone's giving a boring speech, I don't think that's a sign of anything other than the fact that he's been working hard. And again, that's just my neutral perspective on the subject. That is not in defense of Trump. I'm not saying he is working hard. I'm saying if you look at the guy's schedule, I feel like I'd be tired too. And I am not old. And I have not had a stroke. It's not like Biden, where he just wasn't making any appearances and wasn't doing anything and then came out and looked sleepy. You know what I mean? This is not an anti-Biden message. That's just objectively what was going on. So can I buy a house now? Let me know, big dog. I don't know. Can you buy a house? You tell us. Bry Jams. Spoke on some India incident. I did speak on some India incident. I've spoken on many India incidents. Okay, but you can't spam the chat. If you're going to spam the chat, I got to get you out of here. Especially about something I have already reported on. This is how we choose to get our news. Thanks. I wish he was sleepy. Less headache. What made you want to start doing this? Do you have a specific thing you remember that made you feel like you need to do unbiased? Yeah, I legitimately... Sometimes you just want to get the fucking news. And I don't want to hear the opinion or, you know, have to sift through all of the speculation and what it might mean and what it might cause and all those different things. It's so hard to just find the information without all that bullshit. And so I was like, I could give the information without all the bullshit. I also have a generally positive attitude and I'm not quite as affected by all the bad news as it seems a lot of people are. So I feel like uniquely qualified to just cut through it all. And I believe that all personal opinions are personal. And as a reflection of that belief, I have no interest in telling you what to think or believe or like. You know, if you want to vote for Trump, I have no interest in talking you out of that. I just want us... The other part of it, the other thing that made me kind of start this, the other thing that this idea kind of came out of was the fact that there are so many arguments going on, especially on social media, where people seem to be working with two different sets of facts. You know, where it seemed like they just had totally different facts they were working from. So I wanted to create a place that had a starting point where facts that we can all agree on, they are not disputed across any, doesn't matter right or left, they are just the facts. And then you can do your own research, fact checking. At least that starts a conversation from a common place. And, you know, I'm a filmmaker and I like to make content, and I've been making all kinds of different content that didn't spark any interest from people, and this one did. So I kept doing it, you know, and I often get told in the comments that I'm the first person to tell people some of these things, that they haven't heard it anywhere else, which is mind-blowing to me, because, you know, I really am just a guy. I don't have like a team of researchers or people in different countries sending me insider information, you know what I mean? It's just... Stuff does not get reported, doesn't make it to the front page. Okay, here we go. We're starting. Sorry. I was rambling, but I hope that answered your question. What do we got, Caroline? All right, Caroline's coming on now. Oh, I disappeared. I'm back. It's going to put me over here in the corner. Oh, people liked my answer. Good. Yeah, Kellerman's grown a thick shell of indifference. Yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe I'm just apathetic. Okay, let's get this text truth. Come on. Come on, White House. Oh, I'll be over here with all the cameras. I wonder who's going to be in the social media seat today. Do you feel that anti-Zionist Jews run Hollywood? I don't speculate on that kind of thing. That's above my pay grade. I have no idea who runs Hollywood.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here today. Right. We are going to get to my remarks and Q&A as always, but I do have the FBI director with me here, Kash Patel. You all know him well. And he's here to provide an update for you all with respect to China. As you know, President Trump had a very successful meeting on his trip to Asia with President Xi, where they discussed the need for China to crack down on fentanyl production and distribution, which ultimately makes its way here to the United States of America. And the FBI director recently traveled to China following President Trump's meeting to meet with his counterpart in Beijing. And he has a really positive announcement for the American people to share. So the president wanted me to bring the FBI director out to share that with all of you today. So Kash, please, thank you for being here.
Thanks, Caroline. As Caroline mentioned, we have some tremendous news thanks to President Donald J. Trump once again.
Tremendous
for the American
news.
People. As soon as the President of the United States took office, he issued a mandate to rid America of the scourge that is fentanyl, a drug that has killed hundreds of thousands of Americans. Thanks to his leadership and direct engagement with China, we set up a framework to execute that mission 8 months ago. Attorney General Bondi immediately thereafter took steps to engage her counterpart in China at the Ministry of Public Security. Pursuant to their direct discussions, as the FBI director designated to run counterpoint on this, along with the Secretary of State Rubio and Ambassador Perdue and the team here at the White House, we set forward a path to implement the policy needed to crush the plague of fentanyl. Deputy Attorney General Blanche and our teams have been hard at work.
People are telling him to breathe.
Ultimately,
do you think he's nervous or
Beijing
a little
last week?
Sped up?
This was only possible due to President Trump's historic engagement with President Xi just a few short weeks ago that set the stage for today's announcement. At that meeting, the leaders reached an agreement.
If you want to see, you got to go to YouTube, guys.
For the American people, a reminder here that nearly 100,000 people died of fentanyl overdoses just last year alone. Here, this year, under this president, the FBI has seized 1,900 kilograms of fentanyl so far. That is a 31% increase from the same time period last year. To put it in perspective, that's enough fentanyl to kill 127 million Americans. Fentanyl precursors are what makes up fentanyl. While we, the interagency, the Department of Justice, have been fighting hard to seize and stop drug traffickers, we must attack fentanyl precursors, the ingredients necessary to make this lethal drug. That was the sole purpose of my trip to China, to eliminate these precursors. And if successful, we would suffocate the drug trafficking organization's ability to manufacture fentanyl in places like Mexico. This was the first time an FBI director has been to China in over a decade and received the audience with his counterpart to address this matter directly. And again, thanks to President Trump's direct engagement with President Xi, the government of China committed fully to my engagement there on the ground in Beijing at a level never seen before. While at Ministry of Public Security headquarters, I met with my counterpart at MPS, where the Chinese government agreed on a plan to stop fentanyl precursors. What does that mean? The People's Republic of China has fully designated and listed all 13 precursors utilized to make fentanyl. Furthermore, they have agreed to control 7 chemical subsidiaries that are also utilized to produce this lethal drug.
You guys.
Effective immediately, essentially, President Trump has shut off the pipeline that creates fentanyl, that kills tens of thousands of Americans. These substances are now banned, and they will no longer be utilized by the Mexican drug trafficking organizations or any other DTOs around the world to make this drug.
So that's objectively good if true,
has
right?
saved tens of thousands of lives.
We should see a drastic reduction in drug overdoses this year, right?
Team of President Trump,
we'll see next
the
year
Attorney General,
what the
the
data
Department of
shows.
Justice, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and Ambassador Perdue in China, whose ground-level engagements were imperative to achieving this result. This is yet another example of how President Trump defends the American people provides security for the American people, and puts the American people first. This is a historic first in its kind achievement by any president to stop the scourge of fentanyl, and it should be championed by every single American. This achievement will save lives. We are thankful for President Trump's steadfast leadership, and this FBI will fearlessly follow in his footsteps to ensure that this mission of safeguarding the American public is achieved every single day. Thank you. Thanks, Caroline.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
He got that over as quickly as he could.
Thank you again, Director Patel. Before we get going, I do have one quick
Starting
scheduling
off with some good
announcement.
news.
Tomorrow, President Trump will be joined by the First Lady in the East Room for an executive order signing aimed at expanding opportunities for education, career development, housing, and other resources for young people transitioning from foster care to adulthood. This is part of the First Lady's Fostering the Future efforts.
Yeah, you gotta go to YouTube if you want to see what's on the green screen,
In other
guys.
news, the Democrats dragged on the government shutdown for 43 days, the longest shutdown in U.S. history. But tonight, thanks to Republicans, the White House is very hopeful that this shutdown is going to come to an end. The damage caused by the Democrats with this reckless government shutdown cannot be forgotten. It is entirely the fault of the Democrat Party. Just look at the vote count. Hundreds of thousands of federal employees have missed their paychecks. Tens of billions in wages and benefits were withheld, impacting vulnerable families. Millions of low-income Americans missed their SNAP benefits. Nearly 20,000 flights at airports across the country were delayed due to staffing shortages, causing Americans to miss family events, vacations, and work obligations. According to Airlines for America, an estimated 5.2 million travelers have had their flights disrupted over the course of the Democrat shutdown. And our economy has lost billions and billions of dollars in economic activity.
Just gonna pause for one quick second and just remind everybody that even though she keeps calling it the Democrat shutdown, both parties had to dig in for the shutdown to happen.
Over the course of this shutdown, hurting consumer sentiment and crushing the travel and hospitality industries. According to a CBO estimate, the Democrat shutdown could end up decreasing fourth quarter economic growth by 2 whole percentage points. The Democrat shutdown made it extraordinarily difficult for economists, investors, and policymakers at the Federal Reserve to receive critical government data. The Democrats may have permanently damaged.
Just to clarify, again, there have been multiple government shutdowns. And sometimes it's more the Democrats' fault, and sometimes it's more the Republicans' fault. Ultimately, it's up to both parties to come to an agreement. And never before have any of the shutdowns been referred to as a specific party shutdown. That's just, what do you call it? Not advertisement, but it's like, you know, it's narrative. It's just narrative.
The federal statistical system, with October CPI and jobs reports likely never being released. And all of that economic data released will be permanently impaired, leaving our policymakers at the Fed flying blind at a critical period. It's hard to recap all of this without asking a simple question: why? Why have the Democrats put the American people through this pain for 43 days in a row? And it feels like Groundhog Day being up here again, talking about this Democrat shutdown. And the answer to that question is pure partisan politics. They started this shutdown with a ridiculous demand to force taxpayer-funded healthcare benefits to illegal aliens who broke into our country.
Not accurate.
Even after it was clear President Trump and Republicans would never force American taxpayers to pay for free health care for illegals. In fact, President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill fixed that problem. The Democrats kept dragging this reckless government shutdown on for weeks longer to boost their turnout in an election, perhaps one may guess. That's because the Democrats are totally captured by their far left-wing base, who only care about attacking President Trump, even if it means hurting innocent Americans in our country.
That part might be true.
The Democrats' weakness and their unwillingness to buck the fringe members of their party dragged this harmful shutdown on for 7 weeks and inflicted massive pain onto the American public. But let's be clear, the clean CR being voted on today in the House of Representatives that will lead to the reopening of the federal government is what President Trump and Republicans have supported from day one. Our troops, air traffic controllers, and federal employees will be back to receiving their regular
thanks,
paychecks.
Taya.
Families in need will get back to receiving their food purchasing assistance, and the people's government will soon be back open for business. President Trump looks forward to finally ending this devastating Democrat shutdown with his signature, and we hope that signing will take place later tonight. On another matter, I want to address the affordability issue that's received a great deal of media attention this past week, which is ironic because it didn't receive that much attention when Joe Biden was here and inflation was at a record high 9%, the worst inflation crisis in modern American history.
Which he inherited due to the COVID crash.
President Trump won a landslide election in part to address the affordability issues created by Joe Biden and the Democrats. And that's exactly what President Trump has done since day one of his administration. Since the first day in office and every day since, the Trump administration has taken aggressive action to fix the Biden-created cost of living issues. The notion that the same Democrats who just shut down the federal government to sabotage our economy, rob people of their paychecks, and also helped Joe Biden ratchet up inflation to 9% are now suddenly affordability.
Even if that was the outcome, it was not the intention.
Champions, that
There's no
notion
evidence
is
that that was the
completely
intention.
Absurd.
No one has
and
said
it's
anything like that.
Only the liberal media would have the gall to push. But the reality is that President Trump and his administration have done so much to lower prices and increase the economic prosperity of the American people. And this president and his team of amazing economic advisors are going to keep working on this issue every single day.
Hopefully we start seeing it at the grocery stores.
President Trump signed the largest
Hopefully all his hard work
tax
pays
cuts
off,
in American
right?
history, including no tax on tips, overtime, and Social Security, which will guarantee that next year Americans are going to put more money back into their pockets. The president has completely unleashed American energy dominance to help bring gasoline prices to the lowest in 5 years, and we expect them to continue to decrease. And it has also lowered energy costs overall. There is more work to do, but again, the president's deregulatory and pro-American energy agenda is absolutely going to continue to drive down prices. This formula worked.
I'd love for
in
it
the
to just start
president's first
driving
term,
down prices.
and we expect that it's going to work again. And this is key because we know energy costs are the #1 driver of inflation. Again, just look at what Joe Biden did to our energy industry over the past 4 years of his administration, and look at what happened to inflation as a result. Everything became more expensive. To lower prescription drug prices and healthcare costs, the president has been working around the clock on this issue. He is obsessed with negotiating these good deals on behalf of the American people to bring down pharmaceutical costs and drug costs for Americans. And he has done so on a number of fronts. You have seen him discuss that in the Oval Office several times. To fuel small businesses, lower their costs, and incentivize hiring, the Trump administration has already cut 30 unnecessary regulations for every new one on the books, which we know will save employers and small businesses across the country thousands of dollars in regulatory burdens. All of these pro-Trump policies are working, and they will continue to work. Wages are rising at the fastest pace of the start of a presidential administration.
Wages
in 60
are rising.
Years. The cost of the typical new mortgage is
Tell
down
me in the
by
chat if
nearly
you're getting paid more than you
$3,000 per
were
year. There's
at
much
the beginning
work
of
to
the
do,
year.
and this administration will continue to do it. But President Trump has already made great progress in cleaning up the economic disaster that was created by Joe Biden. With that, I will take your questions today, and in our new media seat, we have Bev Turner, who works for a new outlet, a UK outlet, but based here in Washington, D.C., GB News. Bev, thank you for being here today. Why don't you kick us off?
Thank you, Caroline. So the clock is ticking on the Friday deadline by which the BBC must retract and apologise for their malicious edit of the president in the documentary shown last year. The recently resigned Director General of the BBC yesterday described the organisation as the very best of society and blamed the enemies of the BBC for this outcome. Also yesterday, a senior government minister launched a fierce defence of the channel in the House of Commons, saying that the broadcaster remains a light on the hill for people all over the world. So, does the president feel that the network is taking this situation seriously? Does he believe that they've shown sufficient regret? Does this strain the relationship between the president and the prime minister?
Hey, thanks
And
for the
given that
donation,
organisation
Will
is publicly
Sholin.
funded, Is the president prepared to bankrupt?
Sorry, I want to hear the rest of her question, but Will Solden says, thank you for all you do, and make sure to tell us about your festival. I think he's talking about When We Were Young, which I posted a video about. Maybe if more people donate, then I'll stay on after this and I'll talk about it.
The BBC in his pursuit of truth and justice.
Well, thank you, Bev. There's a lot of questions in one there.
Yeah, there
I
were
will
a
say,
lot of
I know
questions
the president
in one.
has a very good relationship with Prime Minister Starmer. You have been there. You've seen them in their interactions. You've questioned both leaders in your time joining us when we've gone to the United Kingdom a few
right-leaning
different
UK
times now.
publication.
However, he has always been very
I keep
frank
waiting
when
for
he
them to have
disagrees
like a
with
more
leaders,
neutral one. They did it
even whom
once.
He has a good relationship
They had one
with. And
slightly
the
left-leaning
BBC being a fair
person
news
in that seat, but
organization is
otherwise it's
definitely
just
an outlet.
been
I think these two leaders would
right-leaning
disagree.
only.
The president has made it very clear that this is a leftist propaganda machine that is unfortunately subsidized by British taxpayers, and he thinks that's extremely unfortunate for the great people of the United Kingdom.
She's talking about the
and Great
BBC
Britain. And I think
editing
that the
his
president,
speech to sound worse than it was,
deeply
which
concerned
is
by the editing, the purposeful
incredibly
and
biased.
dishonest editing of his speech.
It is
that
dishonest.
was so clearly fake news, and he rightfully dubbed that term many years ago.
To be
And
clear,
this
it
is a
wasn't
classic
news, it was a
example of that.
documentary,
We see
but
it
it
in the
was
United
produced
States
by
all
the
time.
BBC. So.
We see it now in the United Kingdom. As you know, the president's external legal counsel has filed a lawsuit against the BBC. We expect that to continue, and whether they apologize or not is up to them. Thanks for being here, Bev. Ouija.
Thank you, Caroline.
Sure.
She must have been brought in just
How has your
specifically to
statement
ask the
about
BBC
the
question.
Epstein emails that have been released by House
Right?
Democrats, separate from why you believe the emails were made public, can you address their substance? Did the president ever spend hours at Jeffrey Epstein's house with a victim?
These emails prove absolutely nothing other than the fact that President Trump did nothing wrong. And what President Trump has always said
I don't know if they
is
prove
that he
they
was
did
from
nothing
Palm Beach, and
wrong.
so was Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein was a member at Mar-a-Lago until President Trump kicked him out because Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile and he was a creep. And this email you refer to with the name of a victim that was unredacted now and has since been reported on in this room, so I will go ahead and say it, Virginia Guffrey. And it was CBS's own reporting, Ouija, that recently wrote that Miss Guffrey maintained, and God rest her soul, that she maintained that there was nothing inappropriate she ever witnessed, that President Trump was always extremely professional and friendly to her. And so I think it's a question worth asking the Democrat Party, and you should all go ask them after this briefing, of why they chose to redact that name of a victim who has already publicly made statements about her relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and is unfortunately no longer with us.
Wow.
Mary.
Thank you, Kelly. Two questions
Way to
on
turn
this.
it around.
In the interest of transparency, why not just go
Really
ahead,
turn that
release
question
the
around.
files on Epstein, get this all over with?
This administration has done more with respect to transparency when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein than any administration ever. In fact, this administration, the Department of
no
Justice,
matter how much
has
you
turned
think they're
over
lying about or
tens
hiding,
of thousands of
that's true.
documents to the American
They
people.
have been
We
more
are cooperating and
transparent
showing
than any
support for the
previous
House Oversight
administration.
Committee. That's part of the reason you are seeing these documents that were released today, because of the House Oversight Committee's and Republicans' efforts to get these out to the public. This administration also moved, the Department of Justice also moved to unseal grand jury testimony, which we know, unfortunately, a judge declined those requests. So this administration has done more than any, and it just shows how this is truly a manufactured hoax by the Democrat Party. For now, they're talking about it all of a sudden because
See?
President Trump
See?
is in the Oval Office. But
Anything
when Joe Biden
released by
was
the
sitting
Democrats
in
is
there, the
discredited
Democrats never brought this up. This wasn't an
because
issue
it's
that they
a
cared about
Democrat
because they
hoax.
actually don't care about the victims in these cases. They care about trying to score political points against President Trump,
Thanks,
as we
Quinn
of course
DeSilva.
seen with this government shutdown. And this entire thing, again, it's not a coincidence to the American people at home. There are no coincidences in Washington, D.C. And it is not a coincidence that the Democrats leaked these emails to the fake news this morning ahead of Republicans reopening the government. This is another distraction campaign by the Democrat and the liberal media, and it's why I'm being asked questions about Epstein instead of the government reopening because of
They're trying to
Republicans and President
distract
Trump.
from the
Right,
other
but
distractions,
Caroline,
guys.
Why are White House officials then meeting
Don't be
with
distracted by those
Representative Colbert in an
distractions.
effort to try and
You
get
should be
her to
distracted by
not
these
sign
other
this petition,
distractions.
calling for the release of the files?
Doesn't it show transparency that members of the Trump administration are willing to brief members of Congress whenever they please? Doesn't that show our level of transparency? Doesn't that show the level of transparency when we are willing to sit down with members of Congress and address their concerns? That is that's a defining factor of transparency. Having discussions with members of Congress about various issues, and I'm not going to detail conversations that took place in the Situation Room, in the press briefing room.
But that's
Great.
the transparency they're asking for.
Thank you. I'm glad someone.
That last part was actually what they were asking about. The part you said you wouldn't say. That's what they were asking about.
I'm wondering if the president had
Having secret conversations with Congress members is definitely not an example of transparency. This administration has been very transparent. That was just a terrible example.
Total. When you look at that in comparison to the reduction in the federal workforce that this administration has done since January to get rid of the waste, the fraud, the abuse, and to reduce the size of our federal bureaucracy, we've done a lot of great work on that front, and we will continue to. But obviously, the president's main priority was to reopen the federal government and get people back to work, and that's what this deal accomplishes.
There's been reports in Israeli media that the U.S. is considering building a temporary military base on the Gaza border. Can you confirm these reports?
So I had a conversation directly with the reporter who wrote this article, and this article was based on a single piece of paper, an inquiry that somebody in the Department of Navy made about an idea that may happen in the future. And this reporter deemed that as an official plan and ran with a story that the United States is looking into it. I checked with the highest levels of the United States federal government. This is not something the United States is interested in being engaged in. It's not something we are currently involved in right now that we will be funding. And the president has been very clear he doesn't want to see boots on the ground with respect to what's happening in the Middle East. We've made great peace. We've made great progress with the peace plan in Gaza, and we want to continue to see that move forward. But I put a comment in that story for a reason. And sometimes we see reporters take a piece of paper like this and just deem it as official policy, and sometimes that misleads people a little bit. Sure.
Or a lot of it.
There's been a question about UK intelligence sharing regarding the drunken traditions involving cocktails with adults. How will that affect the U.S. military operation? There's been a lot of discussion about the high caliber of the intelligence that has been provided before any of these military actions have taken place.
I've seen that report. Oh, hello. I've seen that report. I'm familiar with the reporting, but we don't comment on intelligence matters, classified intelligence matters, as you know. As for the Trump administration's position on our narco-terrorist campaign in the Caribbean, it is going to continue. And the president has made it very clear he's not going to allow terrorists to bring illegal drugs that kill American citizens into our great country. Sure, John. I'll go to John and then Zolan. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. Trump has talked about sending out $2,000 checks to U.S. citizens. Earlier this year, he also talked about sending a Doge dividend. That didn't materialize. Should U.S. Citizens expect the $2,000 proposal? Is the White House committed to making that happen?
The White House is committed to making that happen, yes. And we are currently exploring all legal options to get that done. I don't have a timeline for you or any further details, but I can confirm for you that the president made it clear he wants to make it happen. And so his team of economic advisors are looking into it. And when we have an update, we'll provide one.
Stimulus,
So,
baby.
You said at the top that one of the costs of
Get
the
those
government
checks out.
shutdown was that people missed their SNAP benefits. Can you explain then why the administration went to court to fight the funding of food stamps and SNAP benefits?
So recipients missed their SNAP benefits because the Democrats shut the government down. And they forced the
Not
administration to tap into a contingency fund that did not even fund the full entirety of this program. And so then you had an unhinged judge who was trying to dictate.
Okay, hold on. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page here. Again, Democrats didn't force anything. The Democrats didn't agree with the Republicans, and that disagreement caused the shutdown. Both parties disagreed. Both parties disagreed. And then the Trump administration was just not going to tap into the funds that have been set aside in the event of something like this happening. Right? The money that they tapped into is there for situations like this, where SNAP benefits may not go out next month. There's nothing else to use that money for. So saying that like the Democrats forced them to tap into money that they weren't going to use is really just an admission that they weren't going to use the money that they should have. Luckily, they ended up using it, so it doesn't really matter.
From the bench.
But this
what
narrative
the executive
is
branch has
so
to
bizarre.
pay for and where that money has to come
Like,
from.
I would have thought that the administration would, like, use that as a big win, you know, and be like, look at us taking care of the American people during the shutdown. But they didn't do that. They didn't spin it that way, you know? Very strange.
Judicial overreach at its finest, and so that's why the administration pushed back on that. We can't have the judicial branch telling the executive branch that we need to rob the Children Nutrition Fund, which is what this judge was trying to do, to pay for SNAP benefits. That's completely inappropriate and it's unconstitutional, and we've been proven right with that legal argument. But now the good news is, again, thanks to Republicans and in several hours, President Trump, the government is going to be reopened, and SNAP recipients are going to receive their full benefits.
She just said thanks to President Trump, the government's going to be reopened. Just to be clear, it's thanks to the Democrats and Republicans, enough of them coming together and agreeing on something to end the shutdown. I don't know how much of that Trump actually was involved with. You know, the last time he was asked about it in an interview, just yesterday, I believe, he said that there's nothing for him to talk to the Democrats about, basically.
Which is what President Trump has always wanted to do. Stephen.
Why also did you need the judicial process for that? I mean, during this shutdown, didn't the administration have a responsibility to tap into any of those reserves to ensure that essentially...
Right, they didn't. Why did their hand have to be
tap
forced?
into it. We did tap into the contingency fund. And then the judge told us, no, you have to get more money from a children's nutrition fund. And we felt that was judicial overreach. You shouldn't tell the president which fund he has to rob because the Democrats are holding the country hostage by shutting down the...
Again, not robbing the funds. The funds are set aside for this situation.
Federal government. Stephen, go ahead.
Well, if the president is considering a pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell?
Again, he's answered this repeatedly. It's not something he's talking about or even thinking about at this moment in time. I can assure you of that. Stephen.
No pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell.
New York for you.
Sure.
First,
you always do.
Maybe a pardon for Benjamin
Netanyahu. Mayor-elect Mamdani, he said that he plans to reach out to President Trump and that, quote, this is a relationship that will be critical. Does the White House have a response to this planned outreach?
It's the first time I'm hearing of it. I'll let the president respond himself to that comment by Mr. Mamdani.
My second question, Jack Schlossberg, the grandson of President Kennedy, announced today that he's running for Congress. He, in the recent past, has referred to his uncle, the HHS secretary, as, quote, a rabid dog, and he has said that the Trump administration is, quote, the most corrupt in American history. Does the White House have a comment on this sort of comment from a rising star in the Democratic Party?
I don't even think such ridiculous comments are worth responding to. Obviously, those things are not true. And Secretary Kennedy is doing a phenomenal job bringing transparency and the gold standard of science back to our healthcare system.
It's this gold standard of science thing that I think is what's ruffling a lot of feathers here. Because that gold standard of science continuously
I don't have a full list for you in front of me.
Wrong
I know you've reported on some names and we've helped you navigate whether those names were truthful or false. But I know the president actually plans to bring some of you into the dinner tonight. So you'll see for yourself in several hours if that's okay with you.
That the White House is frustrated with Bill Pulte and the rollout of this proposal for a 50-year mortgage. Can you tell us if the White House is frustrated with that rollout and if the White House still supports the idea of a 50-year mortgage for Americans?
This is a proposal that the president himself has commented on. I would defer you to the president's statements, and it's something that the administration is discussing and seriously looking into. Sure. Danny, and then go ahead.
Thank you. Some Democratic members of Congress have invited Britain's former Prince Andrew to testify on the Epstein scandal. I was just wondering if President Trump thinks that former Prince Andrew should indeed come and testify to Congress on that.
I haven't spoken to him about that specific matter, but I can ask him and get back to you.
On the government shutdown, the president and House Republicans have made clear they were not going to negotiate healthcare strategy or policy while the government was shut down. Now, assuming that it reopens tonight, is the president intending to invite any Democrats over to have negotiations over these subsidies or any other plan to bring down the cost of health insurance?
I will just add that, as you pointed out, the Democrats were holding our country hostage to try to negotiate on a healthcare system that they created. Obamacare, as it's famously called, is a system the Democrats created. It is a broken system.
Putting it that way
driven
is
up healthcare
not
costs dramatically
as
in this country.
incorrect as
And now
you
they
put it
shut
the
the
other
government
way.
down to try to fix that system.
See, now that's
it doesn't
incorrect.
make any sense to us, which is why the president said that's a completely untenable position. However, once the government reopens, the president, as he's always maintained, is absolutely open
Thanks,
to having
Nels King.
conversations about healthcare. And I
Ooh,
think you'll see
thanks,
the
Mike.
president putting forth
Thanks
some
for the
really good
goats.
policy proposals the Democrats should take very
Yeah, keep it
seriously
going.
to fix, again, the system that they broke. You can't trust the same people who broke the system to fix it.
Mike,
And so the
single-handedly
American people
reaching my goal
continue
here.
to hear from the president on
Help
this
him
issue.
out, guys.
Follow up on the question about the $2,000 payments off tariff revenue. The president had also talked about using tariffs to bring down the national debt. Would this be in lieu of that? Like, this is now the new way to maybe to use that tariff
No,
revenue?
the president put out a statement on this clarifying he wants to do both things with the tariff revenue that he's bringing into this country. Trillions of dollars are
Mike.
expected to continue to pour in.
Crushing the goal here.
And it's
All by
part of
himself.
the reason that the Supreme Court case is so vital for our country's future, to restore our manufacturing
Wow, guys.
industry in this country, to protect our national
Thank
security,
you,
to
Mike.
continue to allow the president to use tariffs as leverage to negotiate economic deals that are, again, are good for our national security. And that revenue can then be used for various reasons, to pay down our debt and also perhaps to give these rebate checks back to Americans, which, again, the White House is exploring the legal options of how we can get that done. Catherine, go ahead.
Caroline, Viktor Orban said this week that President Trump has promised Hungary some kind of financial shield. Do you have any details on how that will be structured or what that would look like?
I don't, but I'm happy to check with the National Security Council and get back to you.
One more. You recently said you'd check with President Trump about why he needs to get an MRI on his recent trip to Walter Reed. Do you have any more detail on that?
I do, and I'm glad you asked. As stated in the memo provided on October 10th, President Trump received advanced imaging at Walter Reed Medical Center as part of his routine physical examination. The full results were reviewed by attending radiologists and consultants, and all agreed that President Trump remains in exceptional physical health, which I know all of you will see with your own eyes later this evening.
Someone just
when
asked
he
if
opens up
MAGA
his dinner
pays
to the
me.
press, and
Hold on.
perhaps you will see him when he...
First of all, MAGA is just a saying. MAGA is not an entity. MAGA doesn't pay anybody. Do you mean the Republican Party? No, they're not paying me anything. Nobody pays for the fucking news.
signs the bill to reopen the federal government. So stay tuned on plans for that. Thank you, everyone.
Alrighty then. Give me my thank you for joining screen. Thank you. Well, there you have it. That's today's press briefing. Let me know how you think about that. Nobody else donated, so I'm not going to stay on and answer any questions. Please make sure that you like the video, subscribe, send it to your friends. Spread the word about the fucking news. Make sure you're following me on more than one platform because I'm constantly shadow banned on at least one of them, if not multiple at the same time. Let's see. How can you support the channel? Watch on Facebook and YouTube are really the only platforms that pay. TikTok, kinda. If you're giving me gifts right now on TikTok, that helps a lot. If you're on Instagram, you're not helping at all. You just enjoy the free show, or maybe go watch somewhere else and help out the channel a little bit. Substack helps the most. Substack.com/theforkinnews. You know what I found out, guys? There's a fucking news Substack. Can you believe that shit? So I'm the Forkin News with the number 4, like on my Instagram. On Substack, go find that. I think you can also find me by searching Kellerman. But that's really the best way to support the channel, because that's like a monthly subscription sort of deal. But, you know, if you just want to enjoy the free content, that's okay too. I appreciate your eyeballs. I appreciate your open minds. I appreciate you thinking critically and participating in the conversation. No matter what side you're on. Doesn't matter to me. Everybody's got to, we got to all figure this thing out together, right? How do we live with each other? Does he see a heart count? Yes, he's #1 MAGA supporter. I don't know what you guys are talking about anymore. So I'm going to go. Thanks everybody for joining me. Thanks for giving a shit.